This is another edition of the What If series. It's a series where we take something that was huge in its moment and talk about what if it didn't happen the way that it did and it happened another way. So this is a fan request. They brought it up that what if Stone Cold Steve Austin had never turned heel at WrestleMania 17? For those of you who were not around or fans in 2001, Stone Cold Steve Austin was the man. He was the guy. I think that can be said confidently. The ultimate babyface for the working man, for the blue-collar man. That's what I was always told. However, I see it through a different lens. The way that I see it as a person who's in the industry, he was the ultimate anti-hero. He was neither good nor bad. He was just a man. Ups and downs, peaks and valleys even. He was a man about his business and about his purpose, which was becoming WWF champion. The first time Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock had met, the great Philadelphia city of brotherly love, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the night that he didn't get his vest made in time and walked out in a bland-ass t-shirt to face The Rock. And he beats The Rock. He's the ultimate good guy here. He beats The Rock. And then time passes. We get an injury. Austin's out for a minute. But he'd been running hot. He'd been the top babyface for many, many years. But, well, not many, many years. Let's be realistic. He was the top babyface from about 97 to about 01 or 02. So it was about a 4 or 5 year run. But amidst that were some setbacks. Obviously, Owen Hart dropping him on his head caused some nerve and some damage to the neck. He had a spinal fusion surgery after Rikishi hit him with the car because he did it for The Rock. He did it for the people. They took Stone Cold Steve Austin out for about 9 or 10 months. So he's had some ins and some outs. Obviously, we had the big fever situation when he went into WrestleMania 19, which was the third time he had faced The Rock. No title that time. So he'd been running pretty good and pretty strong for a long time. At WrestleMania 17, it was in the Houston Astrodome, top to bottom. What are we looking at for this year? WrestleMania 41. There's been 40. This will be the 41st WrestleMania. For my money, I've seen them all multiple times. For my money, WrestleMania 17 is the greatest WrestleMania of all time. And they were on the top of that card. It's The Rock, it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's the two biggest icons in the sport clashing for the ultimate prize in one of the biggest and most prestigious stadiums in the world. This was the perfect setting for something huge to happen. And everyone assumed that Stone Cold Steve Austin would go in Houston, Texas, and he'd beat The Rock for the title. As big a star as Rock was at the time, I don't think a single individual literally thought Steve Austin would lose that match. Too much was on the line. Too much was at stake. What we didn't count on was how he would win said match. He hit The Rock with everything he could. He hit him with everything but the goddamn kitchen sink. We're talking stunners. We're talking $1 million dreams. He pulled everything, all the stops. He could not beat The Rock. And all of a sudden, moseying down the ringside, a freshly beaten up Vince McMahon. He lost the street fight to Shane McMahon earlier in the evening, but he came down in the main event. Seemingly to the confusion of many people watching, who is he there to support? The Rock? Surely not. They've been beefing up until this point. Stone Cold Steve Austin? Of course not. That's the ultimate program and feud in the history of the company. Why the fuck is he out there? And then there it is. Big move to The Rock. He goes down, kicks out. Stone Cold starts yelling at Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon goes to the side, pulls up a chair, throws it into the ring. Stone Cold proceeds to wear that ass out. And he pins The Rock to become WWF champion with the assist from Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon then comes into the ring. There's a beer celebration and a handshake. Stone Cold Steve Austin has sold his soul to the devil to win the WWF Championship in Houston, Texas. It's the heel turn that both confused and pissed off many. Now, there's two sides to the story. There are some who say that Stone Cold Steve Austin turned heel because he felt the character was getting stale. He was losing steam. He wasn't as over as he once was, especially coming off of those injuries. He wanted to try something different. He wanted to freshen up the character, so he decided to turn heel. There are those in the company that felt this was a tremendous mistake, including one Jim Ross. I sent you the audio leading up to this where he laid down his thoughts and opinions, gave a great analogy. It was like trying to hire John Wayne to play a Nazi in the movie. It just doesn't work. He's too over as a fucking babyface to make him heel. If you go to YouTube and you type in Stone Cold after WrestleMania 17, you'll see a promo that Stone Cold Steve Austin cut with Vince McMahon the night after WrestleMania. They refused to cheer this man. Very few boos. A few occasions where he got a little loud with them, so they booed. But for the most part, they did not want to boo him. They did everything they could to get heat on this guy. They had him beat up Jim Ross in Oklahoma City. They had him wear Lita's ass out with a steel chair. They did everything in the book, every traditional heel thing you can think of. Steve got more annoying with the promos. He became a whiny little bitch, which is the complete opposite of Stone Cold. My name is Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I do not deserve this. He turned into a straight bitch as his character. He would walk off on people. He would run off scared. He was a completely different character. And the crowd, it's questionable. Me personally, I actually enjoyed the heel run. I understand why people didn't want to see it, but I personally, his Alliance era, when he had the other theme song, that shit was hot. I still play that shit to this day just for shits and giggles. I love the heel run, but I could see it from both sides. I understand. So the fan was asking the question. Our fan, a member of the Squad of O, says, what would have happened if Stone Cold Steve Austin had never turned heel at WrestleMania 17? I have my thoughts. I have an idea. I want to run them by you, Dave. Where do you agree or disagree with what I'm about to say? And it's going to be very short. And I just provide you with evidence. Okay? How many baby faces have we seen? There's a few exceptions. Ricky Steamboat, Rey Mysterio. There's a few exceptions to the rule. But the rule of thumb generally being that if you're a baby face for a pretty long amount of time, eventually these people will turn on you. These people will start to boo. They'll go online. Oh my God, he's so boring now. Oh my God, he does the same thing all the time. He throws up the middle finger. Ooh, what a badass. He claps his two beers together. He basically wears most of his beer. He doesn't even drink beer like that. He's coming out here in that stupid ATV again, like at the Tonka truck. We get it. You're a grown baby. That's what in my opinion, that's what would have happened. I still feel like to this day he made the right decision turning heel. We've seen since their reluctance to do it, because the guy who followed Steve Austin was John Cena, and they never turned him. But you got to admit, they had opportunities to, because John was not universally loved. He was loved in the beginning of his career. He was one of the most over baby faces for a minute. Then they turned on him, and then it became mixed reactions. Now, because, how can I miss you if you won't go away? He's at the Royal Rumble, and he got a tremendous pop. So it all came full circle, but they did 5 moves of doom. He just comes out there with the same fucking look and the same fucking moves and the same fucking promos. He doesn't do anything crazy. His move set is basic. He doesn't really. The charisma's just not there anymore. Do you agree with me or disagree that you feel like the audience would have eventually turned on Stone Cold Steve Austin, or you're free to disagree if you don't think so?
I think with The Rock as heel, probably not. So the problem with the babyface, and from my memory of history, so if I'm off, please correct me. But usually, when the babyface gets their fucking hand on it, it becomes this unbeatable run. It's like it's like the way to protect the babyface is by allowing them to consistently win. But there was a time in that era, that Attitude Era, slightly before the Attitude Era, where the face, when they have the belt, like they can lose, and that's a part of the buying back into the face, right? Having him face adversity, real adversity, like him not being able to overcome it and coming up short and having to work his way back into, working hard to earn it, whatever the case may be. And I feel like a lot of the runs that they had and the formula that they had, and I think this is why Roman was so good, because he kind of like changed it, where it's like he kind of changed it, but he kind of didn't. Where it's like they don't have to hold the belt for an eternity, and I don't think Roman was going to until he made a pivot and completely changed. Like I feel like the end of his run, when he made that change, made his run feel a lot longer because it was a refresh in the middle of it. I don't think a lot of people can do that, in Cody's run, I really wish he kind of dropped the belt once or twice. Like, I don't like the handshaking, I don't want it any other way, this is a good competition. Like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, you're holding on to a belt, you're trying to high five everybody, and it's not appealing to me what he's been kind of doing with the belt. But they've also, throughout have been teasing like these weird moments, like if he was gonna do it, it would be now. Like when Roman came back, I was like, oh, this is a way to just literally flip this on the fucking head. Where Roman clearly came back as a face. Yeah. And Cody has this weird chip on his shoulder for no fucking reason, because he did what he was supposed to, right? He lived up to the greatness. But then we can spin into this weird rock thing that they're doing now, where he wants his fucking soul. It's like, at this point, I think
don't get ahead of it. We're gonna get there.
yeah. But what I'm saying is, I think that if they would have made that pivot, this is part of the what if thing, right? Like, if they would have made that pivot with Cody, and you're just like, why is he doing this? You know what I mean? It's weird. Now we're looking at him different. And he's doing the heel run, and he's chasing after Roman. Roman's unbothered. He can kind of continue to do what he was doing. Like, I'm not worried about you right now. I'll get back to you. And that, like, pisses him off more. Like, why are you so hell-bent on that? And then Rock is now back doing his thing, and Cody goes to him with the offer of, I want fucking Roman's head. I'll give you anything you want if you can give me, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that would have been more compelling and more diving deeper into Cody, rather than him walking around shaking hands, telling someone that he's good, and then that turned into I'm not good, and then that turned into a fucking 3-month feud, and which ended in a dope match. But like, I didn't give a fuck about the story, aside from what like Kevin was kind of doing. I didn't care about the champion. And I think a lot of these faces run into these things where they're trying to maintain the face good guy, but like, they're not ripping the belt from them or giving them adversity or having something that's really kind of making you re-buy into the face. It's just like, oh, he's the good guy, he has the championship. And I'm sorry, people are very easily going to get fucking sick of that, because that shit just gets boring.
Yeah. Stone Cold Steve Austin, like I said before, as over as anybody has ever been in the history of this business, I don't think that saves him from the criticism that would have come over time. Especially
right. If anything, he probably saw it happening.
Yeah.
It was like, we got to do
probably
something.
Already felt it.
He's like, I'm too over.
Yeah.
Like, how many people say that?
It has
right?
to come down.
Like, bro, I'm too over. Like, what goes up
must come
down.
Yeah.
And what if I just give it another bump while it's in the air? And that's by fucking mixing it up, doing something weird, right? Because what was his comeback from that? He went face again, didn't he?
Yeah.
How did that go? What was the spike in that? What was the response in that?
So he was a heel all the way up until the Alliance and the WWF finally had their blow off match, which was a Survivor Series. It was the Alliance, WCW and ECW against WWE, with the team captain Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. Rock pins Stone Cold. WWF wins the Ultimate Battle, and then the next night on Raw, Vince decided he was going to strip Steve Austin of the WWF title because, according to him, all those Alliance guys are out the door. They lost, right? So in his head, he doesn't even have Steve Austin on the roster anymore. And he goes to the ring to award Kurt Angle the title because Kurt Angle turned on the Team WWF at Invasion but turned back at Survivor Series. Turns out he was a double agent working for Vince all along. So for his sacrifice, Vince was going to award him the championship. But then, out of nowhere, debuting Ric Flair on WWF television, he comes down to the ring, he interrupts, and he says that last night I bet on a winner last night. Because what happened at Survivor Series is that right before they lost, just to be safe, they sold their stock in WWE to a private consortium. And the consortium, was Ric Flair. And now we're 50-50 owners. We're partners in WWE. And Vince and Kurt had a whole deal. And when they were talking it over off mic, the glass broke. Here comes Steve Austin. He beats the shit out of Kurt Angle. He puts the stunner on Vince. He eyeballs Rick. Rick eyeballs him. Rick's holding the championship belt. And Rick slowly takes it off of him, puts it on Stone Cold's shoulder. He hits the turnbuckles. He drinks the beer. The fans go nuts. He's a babyface.
Now, here's the question.
Mm-hmm.
Does Stone Cold, was it a big pop? Did people go nuts for that?
They went as Gorilla would say, they went banana.
Okay. Does he, from the moment he went heel, up until that moment right there, and I know that's kind of a weird question, so do your best to entertain it. But from that moment, because obviously, like, things change if things don't go the way that, right? So,
Audibles,
like, right. So from the moment he went heel to the moment he went face again,
mm-hmm.
I guess the main question would be, does he survive if he made that whole run as a face?
Here's where, unfortunately, we have to admit he didn't survive at all, even going back to babyface. It was too little too late. Because...
So that's the argument.
That's the argument. So what happened is that you asked me the question, when he turned back to babyface, did he get a pop? He got a monster pop. But he got a pop from the people that were still there. Between his turning of the heel and the turning back to babyface, they had lost so many viewers, they never recovered. A lot of people got turned off to wrestling.
Are we putting that on him?
Yes. Steve.
Wow, well, see, that's a different...
Steve puts it on him.
The WWE Universe put that on him?
Yes, because what happened is that
WWE was supposed to hate himself for
WWE was so hot at the time that he was getting wrestling fans and casual fans. When he turned heel and he was doing all that other shit, he lost the casual. And then it just became hardcore fan. And
do you think that's the reason why Vince would never let that happen again?
That's the reason why he never turned John. Because when he got John, he got them both back again. The Ruthless Aggression era and brought back a lot of those casuals because now we had a new generation of fresh faces that were on top, that were making money, that were bringing in people, bringing in fans. The company had somewhat recovered, but it didn't recover from the height that it had before. Now, a lot of experts will say, well, that was also the advent of the internet where it really started taking off. So, like, a lot of the viewership that they had, they lost from the television side of things, but they were starting to become other ways to consume the product that might have hurt into the numbers. Because remember, when Steve's on top, there was the Monday Night Raw that would do 876 in the ratings. We're down to like 432, and at first, yeah, you look at that and go, man.
What year are we talking here?
Oh, he turned heel in 01. He came back to being a babyface. 02. So maybe like a full year as a heel, but the damage was done. The casuals were gone.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think this is one of those fallacies where it's like because of X, Y, but in reality, it's more of like you're too close to it to see it. There's no fucking. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there were people who were upset, but there had to have been something else going on that year that affected those numbers as severely as that. I strongly disagree that Stone Cold going heel deterred so many people from watching, because that's not really my idea on how like wrestling like really works, right? Like you may lose a fan or two, but nothing substantial enough to like really damage. I don't believe it. Not with The Rock around.
The Rock wasn't around. Remember
when
that
he went heel?
No, after WrestleMania, when Steve Austin turned heel, Rock left to go film The Mummy Returns.
So then how come the loss wasn't because of The Rock?
The loss of viewership?
Yes.
Because when he came back, the numbers didn't change. They never came back. The start of the decline was the heel turn, and then it never recovered.
Again, I'm not putting that all on Stone Cold. I would have to look at the year.
Everybody else does, and that's the
issue.
I
understand. Because, I get that, and that's why we're here talking about it.
Yeah, because if you're talking about the time period in which the ratings had declined in a demonstrative way, I don't mean an 8 to a 7 or a 7 to a 6. I mean the average, literally dropping to half, and then you redo everything. You turn Steve Austin back to a babyface. You bring The Rock back full time. I mean, you're cooking. You got all your people back. Plus, now you've added a Randy Orton, a Batista, a John Cena, a Brock Lesnar. You've padded.
So now it's skyrocketed.
It did not skyrocket. It plateaued. It was done.
And that's my argument. So none of that mattered. And that's my only argument to my, because if it was the cause, then reverting that should have brought back at least half of that.
Because the cat was out of the bag. You can't put the toothpaste back in the bottle again. Once the heel turn happened,
yes, you can.
I'm telling you, it never recovered.
Squeeze that motherfucker.
I'm telling you, it never recovered. People just.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with that it didn't recover. My answer to this what if is this. It wasn't Stone Cold that caused it, although it was a probable cause. I think it was a mixture of things. And to get to the original questions, the what if with Stone Cold, I don't think, just like the test of time of everyone before him and everyone after him, they don't survive the run.
No, I agree with that too. I think I said at the beginning, I think it was the right decision to try.
And I think he knew that. And I also think he knew other things. I think he probably knew that The Rock was leaving. So they were losing that counterpart.
Yeah. They needed another babyface.
And he is not at the fault for doing the very thing that fucking got him there, and was trust his gut. This is going to go to shit. We need to do something, because they're going to get sick of me. I need to fucking do something, which is why I truly believe that although that could have been a scapegoat, there was something else, whether it be in the world or directly in the WWE situation, that caused such a large impact. I think it was just a trend in a market, and that was just a dip. I honestly believe it was just a dip, and him staying face, he would not have survived that long with the amount of support that he had in that moment. I don't think a face Stone Cold at that point when he turned heel is keeping those people there, is my point.
Oh, you thinking it's dipping regardless?
It's dipping regardless.
Yeah, it was too high. It had
And
to
I
come down
think,
to reality.
and I think his spidey senses was tingling, but it was out of his. I would say he tried to do everything in his power to save it, but I think it was just bigger than him. That's why I would have to go back and look at the year as a whole, right? Not only in wrestling business, but what's going on outside of it. You made mention that like the network that they were on weren't really doing as well. Like, was there a change of like
I think that was.
how
I think
people were
that's the
actually
year.
consuming these
Yeah, I think
things?
that's the time period in which we started getting
And wasn't
lower
there a
ratings.
recession around that time, if I'm not
No,
mistaken?
recession
Like,
was 08. The recession
oh
was in
eight.
08, yeah.
Okay.
But
All
I
right.
think TV wise, that was around the era where we started getting a decline across the board. Because now we've got TiVo, now we've got
TiVo, was that
DVR.
around the early
Yeah,
2000s, TiVo?
yeah, TiVo, DVR. Now we got people recording stuff; they're not watching it live. It started. I remember that being the conversation during the ruthless aggression era that there were different ways, and now people were able to consume the product.
And
You can see
remember,
things
you're
now. Yeah.
talking about an early stage of this. So
Yeah.
what if let's what if on top of this? What if, because TiVo was big. TiVo was revolutionary
Yeah.
on what it did to live television. But what happens when revolution starts? The old heads are the ones on top, don't recognize it. So
Yeah.
what are the odds that wrestling was still being consumed,
Yeah.
just not live?
Yeah.
And they weren't reporting weak numbers. They were only reporting live numbers because that was the only thing that counted at the time.
Yeah.
They don't give a fuck about a TiVo. The fuck is a TiVo?
If anything, I think Steve should be given credit for understanding that in his position. Like, he understood there's going to be a bubble, there's going to be a change. We're losing The Rock, we're losing our normal draws.
Something's happening.
Something has to change, or we're going to get steamrolled by whatever's next.
I'm going to put this on my back
Yeah.
and be the one that makes the change.
I did it as a face. Let me try to do it as a heel.
I can do it again, and
Yeah.
I think he is taking the heat.
Remember who, when he became a heel, who he started working with. His biggest program when he turned heel was Kurt Angle. They took an American hero, an Olympic gold medalist, and made him the ultimate babyface.
And let's flip that.
That worked too, because they made him a star.
Let's flip that because, yeah, and that's a passing of the torch as well. That's also fucking something that to consider, because when you're hot and someone's coming along that could be hotter, if you don't handle that correctly, that's going to destroy somebody. Somebody's getting destroyed. But let's flip that. Let's say Kurt Angle goes into this heel and Stone Cold stays face. I think that kills Stone Cold also, because I think Kurt is a great heel.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, say he's a better heel than he is a fucking face.
I think so
and
too.
He was a great face.
That's why he went back to being a heel a few years later. Yeah.
So what does that do to your getting old face when this new all-American fucking dickhead comes in and he's being taught how to be just as bad as a dickhead as Stone Cold was? So again, what does that look like for Stone Cold? I don't know. All I'm saying is I think none of this is on Stone Cold. If anything, he should be praised for trusting his gut and then trying to do what he does best. And that's why, even to this day, his advice to people is, man, you got to go for it. Like, you have restrictions, but at some point, remember when this whole debate about everyone's wearing handcuffs? Remember that?
Yeah.
How many years ago that was? Handcuffs. Yeah. I can't do nothing. I'm handcuffed. And what is he telling these young guys? Fucking just do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, we can't. It's not the same. You know what I mean? Like, so he doesn't know any other way. And that's all he knows is to trust his gut. So I don't think he was wrong. I don't know. I think it's more in the favor that this disserviced him even more if he would have stayed. And it kind of is what it is. And I wouldn't put that on. I'm telling you, if we were to research that year, I promise you can find something very easy. And we even came up with one thing on the fly that could have very well affected those numbers.
And I was losing The Rock as well.
Is fucking huge, dude.
Yeah.
I'm not putting that on one person.
If
There's
you're
no way.
if you're gonna tell me that the show at the very least had 2 major draws and you already lost one, then yeah, because they had remember what happened in 2000. They lost Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was their main guy, and nothing shifted. They had The Rock, they had Triple H, they had The Undertaker, they had pieces to move up in its place. When Steve decided to make the turn in 01, and that led to, shortly after that, The Rock disappears. The Undertaker's American Badass character had kind of run its course. Triple H, while coming off of a feud with The Undertaker after WrestleMania, kind of floated as well, and then he tore his quad. Remember, he tore his quad in 01. Triple H.
Quads.
Yeah, well, no, he only tore the one quad that time.
Okay,
that was Vince who tore quads. Triple H in 01, that was where Triple H tore his quad in the match with Jericho and Benoit. So they lost Triple H and they lost The Rock in 01. Those were the 2 people that carried the company in 2000 when they lost Steve. Steve comes back, and now the 2 people that helped are gone. So now they've got Kurt Angle that they really still have to build, despite the fact that he's coming off of a championship run.
Hindsight, he's greatness, but in the moment,
he was the new guy.
Yeah,
he was still the new guy. He had a championship run, but he was the new guy.
And if you listen to his story, he's the first one to tell you that like he was kind of built by the people around him. Like he came in with a skill, but as far as like being a superstar, they literally had to give him the blueprint, and he took off with it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He said it himself. I just had to listen and learn from the best.
Yes,
that's it.
He did not know how to do the superstar shit.
Yeah, how to wrestle a main event match on fucking pay-per-view with the top guys.
Yep.
And that was Steve Austin that gave him that lesson.
Yep.
So, I agree with you. You explained it very well. Yes, I agree with you. That bubble was going to burst. There's no way it would have stayed. But, man, oh, man, he deserves he deserves credit. He saw the writing on the wall. We need a new crop to be working with. Even after he left, because remember, he turned heel in 01. He turned back to a babyface in 02, and then he left the company, the old took my ball and went home routine. He came back in 03 briefly. After WrestleMania, he retired. When he came back as an on-air character but not a wrestler, as the Sheriff, you cannot tell me that Sheriff run, that babyface run as the Sheriff of WWE, wasn't a spawn off of the heel run. It was almost exactly the same exact mannerisms and charisma. He had perfected it. He just made it a babyface character. And he was able to work with the future after that. He's working with Randy Orton now. He's working with Batista. He's working with all the new guys coming up the ranks with that persona.
And if you want to point out the fact where you're like, oh, well, maybe Vince behind the scenes, they know that it was Stone Cold's turn that did it. The people have the information. That's why Cena's turn never kind of happened, because they knew the formula they didn't want to repeat. I would refute that Cena would not have been able to do that in the era Stone Cold was in, because I feel like the era that Cena was in was handcrafted, quite literally, because his whole gimmick changed that made him famous, right? He was handcrafted in a PG era where the focus was a lot different. So him changing, it's obvious it would have done more harm than it would have done anything for Cena. Cena is being promoted to children. Why would you it's like Barney shooting up his set one day because he just he wanted to go heel, right? Like, no, like Barney can't go heel. He's gotta stay the nice guy. It doesn't work if you don't do that. So if you want to point at, hey, the formula, see what Vince did with Cena, that's why Cena never changed it, because it didn't work. No, I'll argue that they didn't change it because Vince had made an overall change to counter the bubble pop, because that's when he decided to go PG. Who's going to give you the money? The kids. Go after the kids. The adults are done with it. I think that's the ultimate thing. The adults are getting older.
Yeah, that point right there is why I still say to this day, and I've been crucified for saying it, but I believe it in my heart. For everybody who's complained recently about handcuffs, I can't think of a single human being more handcuffed than Cena was. Handcuffed. He had to do everything they told him to do.
And this is what made him greatness, right? Because I think you would get refuted with, well, he wanted it, right? He agreed to it. Like, the Seth Rollins and the other people in that time that were pissed off because they wanted, like Kevin Owens, they want to be set free. Like, let me be what got me here. I can give you. No, Cena was like, yes, sir. Right.
Yeah.
So it's more like, oh, he wanted, like, he liked that. It was, no, I would argue that if given Cena the choice to keep the gimmick he created that was blowing the fuck up, he would have done it if it was best for business. Yeah. But him wanting to be the top guy, which is now you know what your goal is, you have to make the sacrifice. The sacrifice is, this is the direction the company is going. Are you willing to do it? Yes. So he did it. And he's a legend for not only making that decision, sacrificing his likeness, because there are people that want to murder him because of what he did to wrestling, but flagship, the people who are watching wrestling today that made 40 so special, the people who watched 40 are the ones that Cena flagship up to that point where they can get the cursing off. Because they're adults now. Yeah. And now we're getting back into this Netflix era where they're cursing again.
Cena was the bridge.
He was the captain of the ship. Yeah. And to this day, and I love that they're doing this, on his exit tour, by the way, to this day, two things happen. One, he's getting booed and they're letting it through. You can hear it now. And two, he's acknowledging it. And, like, you guys are brutal. Like, your talk.
He's getting way more positive pops now, and I think it's to your point.
I think it's building. I think he's this run at the end. I think he's getting, people are like, I hate that you wrestle, but kind of gotta put some respect on you. You know what I mean?
I don't think it's entirely that though. I think you already proved the point as to why he's getting the pops now, because when he was going through that era where he was getting mixed reactions, a lot of the positive reaction he was getting was from the kids. And a lot of the negative reaction he was getting was from the adults. Those kids are adults now. So when he comes out, those cheers you're hearing are from the kids from 20 years ago. They're just adults now. So that's the respect on his name that you're talking about, because he's getting that respect now because the work and the effort he put in on those kids are paying off now.
Absolutely, it's paying dividends.
Because he got a monster reaction at the Rumble. Not Alexa Bliss big, but it was big enough.
Alexa Bliss was big.
It's big enough.
Was big. And he's still, bro, say what you want. Say what you want about Cena. At the end of the day, he still did the job.
Yep.
He could have very
well. So the next
went
guy
in
that
there,
the kids love,
swung his dick around like Charlotte did, and now going to WrestleMania. And now, instead of working at all for what we're going to assume is a main event that he's going to be in, he has to earn it now. He could have just cashed out and dipped until he was about a month out and then made some noise and then did the pay-per-view, but he didn't. So, like, he's still doing the job, dude. Yeah. If you're not recognizing his fucking greatness right now and what he's done sacrifice-wise, whether he wanted to or not, for what was best, bro, you're blind to it, man. You're just blind to it. Seriously. Like, he's just got all my respect, dude. And we've been putting respect on Cena's name long before this. Like, even towards the end of his run, where he was like super hated, you and I both were like, look, we're gonna whisper this because I know, like, it's not unpopular opinion, but he might actually be one of the greatest to ever fucking do this.
That's what they call him on the show.
Based on what he did for the company. So it's paying out now.